Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next session of From Nothing, Lorna's story. We're going to pick up right where we left off. You and your crew have just gotten back to the Hermit House in the Verdant Circle. Let me go ahead and pull you over to the splash. As you and your group settle into the Hermit House, you said you have a few things you wanted to do. You wanted to build a transmuter stone, if I recall?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Okay. You can go ahead and do that. It doesn't take a roll. You just choose to do that, but it
Takes
does take
8
time.
whole hours. Yeah, so
Yeah.
she'll be busy doing that. Focusing on that.
Okay. A moment. As I thought I was prepared, but I forgot to have my dice out.
Tisk.
I'm doing my best. All right.
Is she able to, have conversations while she's doing this? Or is it her whole attention?
So it's just like concentrating on a spell.
Mhm.
You can speak to people, but your attention is basically focused on this task. You can have conversations, but they're probably not going to be particularly deep ones.
That's fine. She just wanted to reach out to Vicar.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
It's not like a very deep conversation that she's planning with this guy.
Sure. Okay. What do you say?
She, while she's focusing her magical efforts and attentions on the stone she's creating, she will think, Vicar, do you have a moment?
I am around.
Fantastic. I was wondering if I could ask you to help switch my invocations.
What did you have in mind?
So, initially I took the Eldritch Sight one to help me see magical means at will, but the staff I was just recently granted allows me to do that as well. I figured perhaps I could ask for your help in something new instead of being redundant.
This is fine.
I was hoping for Eyes of the Rune Keeper so that I can read any writing. I think a very valuable skill for a wizard.
You understand by accessing Eyes of the Runekeeper, you are borrowing knowledge from my wealth of educated persons.
I suppose now I do. Is there more to it that I have to understand before I ask for this?
No, just that you're all right with that.
Certainly.
Then consider it done.
Okay. Thank you, Vicar.
Was that all?
That was all.
Good. Now, I have a task for you.
Great. What is it?
I am under the impression you will be heading to Shona soon.
That's right.
When you arrive in Shona, there will be a guard outside the front gates of the city. They will be on the right-hand side of the glideways the Silver Express uses to enter the town. They will be leaning against the wall. You will recognize them, for they will be wearing a half helmet, and the helmet itself will be made of bronze.
Okay.
When you find them, you are to give them 50 gold pieces.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Is that it? I believe so. Give this person 50 gold pieces.
Don't say anything to the man. Don't greet him. Don't answer any of his questions.
Don't speak. Don't greet. Don't answer any questions.
Approach, offer the gold. When he takes it, leave.
When he takes the gold, leave. Do I have to do this alone?
It matters not.
All right. I will do as you ask.
Good. Be aware that if it does not go as I've instructed, I will be cross.
I will do it precisely as you've instructed, I promise.
Good. And Vicar falls silent.
Lorna's just kind of like, as she's concentrating, just brow furrowed, not from what she's working on, but from this bizarre request, and a little worry. But he asked, and she will do it.
Okay.
Huh.
Do you have 50 gold pieces?
Uh, yes, I do, and I mean, who knows? I'll probably get more on the way, or I could borrow some from a party member if I don't have any at that point. Great.
Okay.
That was weird.
Vicar is silent and does not comment on your confusion.
I'm sure he can feel it.
Probably. And you continue working on your transmuter stone.
Indeed, I do.
Okay. As you're concentrating on the transmuter stone, life in the hermit house is relaxed. You see, over the period of time while you're concentrating on this magical artifact of your own creation, your team passing the time. You watch Lilith lay down on the couch and pass out. You see Anscombe and Tier Skolna start playing cards again. And it's pretty
Stripping.
brief. No, they're not stripping.
Damn.
You hear Nore piecing together some new piece of music. And it turns out the process of making a song doesn't sound very good.
Okay.
At one point, Tier gets up and he makes a meal in the kitchen of the hermit house. You are given a plate of food. This is not new. You've worked through the day before where everybody kind of goes about their own business in proximity. You are given basically meat, bread, cheese, various vegetables.
He's grateful for it.
Yeah. But you're not really disturbed until you've been working for about 6 hours. Nore sits down next to you. What you doing?
I'm making something I've never made before, but I've pieced together some notes from different references, and it should give me an advantage.
So you probably need to concentrate, right?
I mean, what are you thinking, Nore?
I'm bored.
Oh. Were you hoping for me to give you a suggestion?
No. I'm trying to decide if it's worth annoying you.
Oh, well, I can't wait to see the results of your figuring that out. You could play me music. That would be nice. She seems enthused.
She closes the book that you are reading out of.
Alright.
Yeah.
Oh, it's working. I see. You're doing it on purpose. She's going to mentally connect with Requiem and just say, can you please open the book back up for me? My hands are busy.
The ghost snake winds up around the back of the book and it opens back up.
She just kind of smirks at Nore.
Nore, pushes one of the pages over.
Nore takes a deep breath and thinks peaceful thoughts.
You're no fun. And she stands up.
I'm a lot of fun when I'm not working.
Uh-huh.
If I intervened while you were working on music.
I kill you.
Wouldn't be much fun either. Yes, there we are.
But you won't kill me.
No.
She gives your chair like a little as she shoves it with her foot. And then you hear her just call out, Tier! I gotta kick your ass at cards. Get down here.
Okay. I'm glad you're getting along better, she says quietly.
Stuck in a house with him. What do you expect?
We'll be at a feast soon. I'm sure that'll be plenty of entertainment.
You feel a mage hand just bump against your nose, like trying to pick your nose.
Is that her?
Yeah.
I didn't know you could do mage hand.
You don't know a lot of things about me.
I'm starting to learn them.
The mage hand's still there, like it's poking at your nose.
Her hands are busy.
Yeah.
She tries to keep a straight face and pretends that this is not bothering her.
Okay.
Her deception's pretty good, so I imagine she just looks completely placid.
I mean, Nora's walking away. She's not looking at you. The mage hand is just doing her bidding, it seems.
Oh. This is good practice for me maintaining concentration in battle, I think.
Sure. She's not bothering you enough that you need to make a concentration check, but you are being bothered, and be aware of that.
I am well aware.
Yeah, after like a few more moments, the mage hand still just poking at your face. Requiem the snake just bites the mage hand and it pops.
Thank you, Requiem.
You're welcome.
Be on guard for more mage hands.
Oh. This is new.
It is, but it's a little fun.
Okay. So you are only acting dismayed?
I'm a little dismayed, but I also... I guess I'm a fool.
You're not a fool.
Thanks,
I think
buddy.
you're brilliant.
Oh. She kind of tilts her head, because her hands are still busy, to nuzzle the little snake head.
It's there. I mean, you feel like the strange, cold memory sensation of a snake on your cheek.
Mm.
Requiem just kind of relaxes back onto your lap, being Snakeweum.
Snakeweum.
That's all that happens, is Nora is bored and bothers you while you're trying to work. Everyone else leaves you alone, and Nora does eventually find something else to do.
Yeah, she bothers Tier instead.
They start playing cards again. It seems like that's a pretty common pastime for your group.
There's no handheld electronics, so I get that.
There is a lot of book reading. That happens too. However, as you are working on the transmuter stone, and it gets later and later in the day, you can't help but notice the noise coming from outside gets louder and louder. The sounds of the village folk having conversations can be heard through the windows. And those conversations, at first, around, like, when you first started working in the transmuter stone, around, like, 11, were pretty calm, matter-of-fact, people just going about their day. But as the day has proceeded, and it's gotten closer and closer to nighttime and the feast, the conversations have gotten louder and more excited. Until you can hear the children of the village laughing and screaming in excitement as they're running around outside, getting in the adult's way. And you do hear the occasional, like, staccato bark of an adult being like, "Get out of there! Nope, put that down!" Just shouting at the children as they are getting in trouble as the feast is still being prepared. When the suns finally begin to set, you are finishing up on your transmuter stone. And as you're getting through the last final processes of making this transmuter stone, you hear music begin to play. Woodwinds and percussion begin to fill the air as the grove, the feast is beginning. Everyone is in good spirits, which is, a good sign considering. And as everybody seems to be having a good time outside, you can't help but feel this anticipation, like perhaps everyone is gathering at the main tent, and you probably should head there as well.
Okay. She finishes up what she's doing, spruces herself up a little bit.
I gotta know, what does your transmuter stone look like?
That's a good question. I think she's really on this vibe recently. So it's going to look like a worry stone.
Like a
You know
river
what one
rock?
of those looks? Yeah, but it has that specific indent where you can kind of smooth your thumb through it or over it, and it looks like a moonstone.
Okay. All right, so it's very pale. It's very, like, the edges are translucent and light seems to flow through it. Okay. Sure, that's what it looks like. You make that.
Yay.
It is cool to the touch, and it's got a good weight to it in your fingertips. Now that it is finished, you feel the latent energy, the latent transmutation magic, almost begging to be channeled through it.
I accidentally rolled a Constitution save because I wanted to give myself proficiency in Constitution saves.
You sneeze really hard
Okay.
because you rolled an 8.
Because I failed.
Yeah.
But do I still imbue that essence into it?
Yeah.
Hooray! I have a +6 to my con saves, which should make holding spells easier.
Sure. That's what you do.
Great.
And as you look out the window and the rest of your party, everyone's like kind of stopped what they were doing and looking out to see what's going on. It looks like this get together is getting off the road.
Right, so we should probably head out soon. Is everybody ready? You all look nice as emissaries of the Nightingales.
Everyone's wearing the same clothes that they have been wearing all day. Were we supposed to change?
I mean, at some point we should probably make sure we have like a set of nice clothes on standby in case for formal occasions. But she'll go over every single person and Presty,
Sure.
each of them, to
You
just
clean
clean
them
up dust, dirt,
So,
odors.
from what you've seen, your party has sets of traveling clothes, which all look just basically like clothes that can fight off the weather, but they're not armor. And then they have armor. And that's what your party wears.
Formal attire for events such as these, but
No, we don't.
yes, we do.
You might have to, but I most certainly
What
do
if we
not.
have an audience with an important person someday, like
They'll
the
probably
king
know
of
who we
Aurelia?
are. Why would we want that?
I don't know, but what if?
He'll be impressed by the fact that we have the gumption to arrive in our everyday.
I'm so glad I'm the leader of this group and I've decided that we're going to get nice clothes.
Are you paying for them?
When the time comes.
Then fine.
She flicks his nose and says, all right, are we ready to go?
I'm ready as I'm gonna be. Although it says as she's like looking out the window at all these people, she says,
Well,
that's a lot of people.
right. So we're going to be
I didn't even know there were
polite.
many of this fucking people in the village. There's like 10
That
people
is
that walk
true.
by that I haven't even seen before.
Maybe that's more expensive than we realized.
Yeah, probably. It is a grove.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of homes just kind of hidden away.
Right. In trees and such, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
Unless that's a stereotype.
Oh, it is 100%. I just didn't want to
Okay, well, I won't.
shoot you down.
Okay. She'll go to the door. Let's go. And we're going to be kind and polite. And have a good time.
I have an
That's
important
a
question.
requirement. Yes, she
we-
says with her hand on the knob.
Are we going armed?
Why would we need to be armed?
People are out to kill us.
You can bring a weapon or two.
Okay.
Visibly.
I mean,
you can have as many tucked away as you want.
He makes his own, so he's fine. But some of us don't have that luxury.
Just, don't be menacing.
Tier, looks at Lilith and looks at you. Right.
I'm asking a lot, I know.
You sure are. Okay, look. If you tuck your short sword up in your jerkin, it's not quite as obvious as if it's out on your belt. All right. Fucking fine. And Lilith does as he says. She's still armed, but she is not. She, takes the belt of throwing knives and hatchets off.
The excess that she rarely has to use.
I use them all the time.
Well, I've never seen it.
Yes, you have.
Well, I've never paid attention to it.
That's probably true.
Are we ready to go?
Skola nods.
Great. I love that attitude. She'll open the door before anyone else can say anything.
Okay, you go out. As you head to the feast, you realize the feast is not just a meal. It's a ritual.
Oh.
The night
dress better. Fuck.
The night hums with the pulse of nature. The air is rich with the scent of wood smoke, wild herbs, and freshly turned earth. As your party leaves the hermit house and begins to head towards the heart of the verdant circle, the massive tent where the druids of the grove gather beneath the sprawling canopy of the rimwood. The clearing ahead glows with the warm light of fire pits, and each one glows with unnatural hues. Greens, blues, and golds, sustained by enchanted wood that doesn't ever burn to ash. The entire tent and canopy under these trees in the night air seems to gleam with brilliant colors, glimmering as though a prism reflected off the ocean's surface. It is beautiful. And druids of the entire circle are all gathered, many of them who you've never seen before, wearing a patchwork of leaves, bark, feathers, and bone. And on the table, which is a massive slab of wood, half of it is still alive, like the bark on the underside. It's still clearly a fresh tree. You see that it is covered with bowls of berries, vegetables, meat. It is lined with food, and all of the food appears to be entirely foraged, hunted, or grown. Nothing here looks like it was from outside of the Rimwood. It all looks like it's from around here. Additionally, you notice there's no iron or steel anywhere. Everything is made of wood or leather or bark, and even the little utensils that are left out, everything is basically the equivalent of chopsticks.
Ooh, I hope Lorna knows how to use those.
Well, probably not. As you and your
just
team
stabs one like an American in Japan.
Basically. As you and your team step into this feast, this area of celebration where all these people that you've never seen before, some of them you have, are talking and laughing and basically just making merry. You feel a lot of eyes upon you. You know,
as friendly as possible.
I mean, sure. You can. Why don't you roll an insight? Actually,
sure. Running them assassins.
Yes.
I rolled so good. 28.
A 28.
Yeah.
Okay. Based on what you see as you're looking out over the druids and village folk that are looking at you, you know a few things. People of the Verdant Circle view you and your crew not as enemies, but as outsiders, and ones who did something extraordinary. You destroyed the Abyssal Rift. It was a wound in the land, something even the druids themselves could never mend, and now it's gone. Most druids were welcoming you with like a mixture of awe and curiosity, not like as kindred spirits, but like they're looking at figures of myth who've stepped into reality because they've been dealing with this abyssal rift their whole lives, and then suddenly this person who they hear rumors of their predecessor causing the rift, this person and her crew destroyed it. Some older druids, some of the older village folk, there's a little bit of tension.
Or we expected.
Perhaps they're questioning your and your crew's true intentions. There's some suspicion there.
Mm-hmm.
However, as you're approaching the table, many of the young druids and village folk, especially like the ones that look like teenagers and stuff, they approach immediately. Several of them are offering like mugs of drink and platters of food, and offering you seats at the table, and many of them are like trying to get questions into you over each other about how you and your group destroyed the rift. And one young elf, clearly like maybe 15, which for an elf is a baby, this little red-haired elfin boy looks up and says, "You really did it then? The rift is truly gone? It's not sealed, it's gone?
Yes, that's right. Gone forever."
As he like excitedly like jitters over to his friends, you find yourself waved to by a halfling who looks the most stereotypical farmer you've ever seen. Overalls, like straw in his teeth, just a farmer, a halfling farmer, looks over at you and like gestures to the table near Nolu and says, "Outsiders you may be, but any who mend the land deserve a full belly and good company."
Well, thank you very much.
You
She'll go as he gestured.
Yeah, there's like a whole side of the table where there's plenty of room for you and your whole crew. And as you all sit down, you're only a few hands away from Nolu and a couple of the other elder druids. You, with your high perception, you hear one of the other elder druids, not quite as old as Nolu probably, kind of mutters to another one, "What does it say of us that it was not our hands that healed that wound, but strangers?" And the one next to him just like bats him on the arm to be quiet. But Nolu looks at you and she says, "I hope you all have been enjoying the Verdant Circle.
Certainly.
I do have a question I need answered.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you get that?" And she's pointing at your armor.
Well, we paid our visit to the gold ring, like I said I would.
Yes.
And there was something unexpected there left for Adora.
That is a relic of the old ways.
Mm-hmm. It was a gift from Malcolm.
Nolu, you immediately get the impression that Nolu believes you, but there's like a mix of annoyance, perhaps at her son.
Handing this thing over.
Yeah. And there's like that wave of emotion like crosses over her face, and then you see some acceptance as she says, "If he wanted her to have it, then you should. Yes. When you're finished with whatever you're doing, might I ask you to return such an artifact to the grove?"
I think I can do that, yes.
Thank you.
She
Male.
just came in wearing this thing.
Yep. That like there's like some reverence that she's like looking at this piece of armor that you're wearing, but then she turns back to the table. Before she can actually address anybody at the feast, another elder druid who's been watching you ever since you sat down says, "The land does not choose lightly. If you are the ones to cleanse the rift, then it is no accident that you stand here now. What will you do next?"
Oh, we have a few prior commitments. A Hydra to slay. Some more demonic rifts to close.
You see a weathered old human man who's not across the table, but at a diagonal from you. He has long black hair and dark skin, and the hair is braided that hangs low over his shoulders. "The Hydra."
That's right. That's where we're going next. North to Shona.
"I've not heard of any tale of Hydra in these parts."
Oh, we were specifically commissioned to take care of it.
"Shona's not nearby."
No, we stopped here on the way, and we're planning on heading that way after.
He just nods.
She'll look at Nolu. How close is Nolu, and how close is this guy?
So Nolo is at the head of the table. All right. This guy is on the far corner of the table. So you're 6 people away from that guy, and Nolo's 2 people away from you, if that makes sense.
Uh-huh. Who's the guy between her and Nolu, or the person between her and Nolu?
That is the wizened old woman that asked you what you're gonna do next.
Okay, so she'll kind of lower her voice and just say, "Is that Reaver?"
"Yes. Do you have business
Fantastic.
with the man?"
I was actually going to help, or ask him if he could help me with this Hydra. Not to fight it, but maybe give me some advice.
"Oh, I'm sure he has some words for you."
Is now an appropriate time, or should I wait?
She waves a hand at you as if to dismiss your question. And then Nolo immediately says, "What was broken is now mended. We have gathered here for many moons, speaking of the rift as a wound that would never heal. And yet, it has healed. Not by our hands, but by those who stand amongst us tonight. And so we gather here to celebrate the deeds of those that come to join us, of friends found, not by wanderlust, but by destiny, set before them years ago. Everyone please, welcome the Rift Breakers, Lorna, Anscombe, Tier, Nore, Skulna, and Lilith." And as soon as she finishes, there is a cheer and lots of clapping. Immediately, flowers just come fucking hailing all over all of you. From everyone around the table, these soft blue and pink and purple and red flowers. You can't see anything. You're covered in a hail of flowers. And it's clear they've been looking forward to doing this because you hear just laughter breaking out from everyone as all of you are just, it's like a rising hill of flowers that are just all around you. It's all over the food. It lands in all of your drinks. Your entire party's just, there's completely disoriented.
There are worse things to be pelted with.
It's true. It could be much worse. They're very soft and it smells very good. But other than that, it is pretty overwhelming to just get smothered in flowers. How do you think Lorna would react to that?
I think she's probably bright red from the attention, just generally speaking. To be the full center of attention is probably a lot, even for her. And she'd be grinning, she's pleased. She's glad that she could have done something at all for these people.
How do you think Lorna do you think Lorna would, like, brush it off or just accept it?
No, she would just take it. Why would she
Okay.
brush off the gifts they're giving her? Unless
Hold
they're
on.
making fun of her. Hopefully they're
No,
not.
they're not making fun of you.
Oh,
It
thank
doesn't
God.
seem like that. Seeing you, like, blushing and red and smiling, Nore will stand up and just flowers just all off of her shoulders onto the ground. And she says, "On behalf of the Nightingales, we're happy to be here.
Oh.
Thank you all. And there's worse things to get pelted by," she says, as
I was thinking the same
you did
thing.
say this. Yeah. More laughter happens, and as Nora, like, finishes being the face, basically, using...
Lorna just says, thanks.
Yeah. You hear, like, Nolu say, "And with that, let the new moon feast begin."
Ooh.
And as she sits down, it seems like that pleasantry, that almost, like, acknowledgement of what happened, what they're celebrating, broke the ice, and now everyone just fills with chatter. And everyone starts eating and talking and laughing. And then, leaning over the flowers, the old lady says, "Now you could ask."
Thank you very much. Lorna will look back at this man and say, "Excuse me, Reaper."
You have my attention. Reaver, it is.
I was hoping to ask for your counsel, your advice on this Hydra we're planning on dealing with.
All right.
I've never fought one before, if you can imagine that.
They are not easy fights. Have you ever seen one?
No, I have not.
Do you know the nature of which this Hydra has taken residence?
I have estimations just based on geography, but no confirmation. I won't know until I get to Shona proper and talk to the client.
What can you tell me from what you can guess?
She'll think back. I believe it was either mountainous or underground, if I had to guess.
Reaver, like, rubs at the thick braided black hair on his chin. And this dark-skinned human is almost, like, hard to make out in the dark of the, like, the colors and illumination in the feast is nice, but he seems to almost, like, blend in by accident. As he considers, almost never is a Hydra just a Hydra. Hydra often adapt themselves to the environment they lair in.
Okay.
Should it be underground, you might be dealing with an Ember Gulch Hydra, or maybe a Murk Maw, or a Molten Worm. If it's in the mountains, it could be a Storm Fang, or a Glacial Hydra. Many kinds, with many knacks they have. In all cases, if you're fighting a Hydra, you can't waste your time whittling away at the creature. For each head you remove, more will come back. You must destroy the heart of the beast. And if the Hydra's in its lair, it's going to fortify itself. Protect its vulnerabilities.
All right. She's like, she actually has cracked open her notebook and she's writing his advice down.
You're gonna need to find out what nature of Hydra it is from your contact or from good old-fashioned legwork, and learn just how it has set up its home. Because that will define how it protects itself and keeps its true body hidden from you.
Its true body?
He nods.
What does that mean? Is what we see an illusion?
If the Hydra's young, its necks will be naught but 10, 15 feet long. If the Hydra's old, it can deceive you into thinking where its next join is where its heart is. So long as you don't destroy the neck, it can regenerate any part of its body.
Any part of its body. I see. How are you supposed to know then, definitively, where the heart is located? Are there signs?
If you can get the Hydra out of its lair, its torso and body are no difficult thing to identify. Only when it's within its home will it trick you. Hide its true form under mud, rock, gas, poison, or smoke.
Is there any way to trick a Hydra out of its lair? It seems like it would be very reluctant to come out.
If you have a magical means of inciting rage, or if you can dominate the creature, force it to follow a command. They're greedy and hungry creatures, but they're not intelligent. Aside from living off pure instinct, you can fool one. You can also make it think you're not as big a threat as you look, with bait or a lure of some kind. Different Hydra have different foods they favor.
Mm-hmm. Are you privy to the food and the type that appeals to?
The kinds I've dealt with before were Ember Gulch Hydra. They were magma Hydra, the sorts that lived in volcano. And they favored food that was burnt, but fresh on the inside. Meat. Charred. But red and running with blood on the inside. I can't speak as to any other kind. You'd have to do that research on your own once you learn what kind of Hydra it is.
Right.
Not all Hydra fight the same. If you're encountering an Ember Gulch, I can tell you that when they bite, it's not poison that ejects from their teeth, but molten saliva that will burn you from the inside out. An Ember Gulch can breathe steam. Will burn the skin from you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It'd be nice if it was an Ember Gulch, so we would have the knowledge in advance, but that doesn't sound easy regardless.
Whatever kind of Hydra it is, make no mistake, it won't be easy.
Right. Well, I appreciate your insight. Is there anything else you can think to tell us that would help?
If you could find a way to convince the Hydra to leave, that'll be far safer for you. The Hydra is where it is, perhaps because it's found a food source. They're simple creatures. Evil and hungry, but simple.
Mm-hmm.
If it's there because it's feeding on something, it will be far less dangerous if you can shorten its food supply so it would leave on its own accord.
Okay. She, dots that sentence. Thank you.
Mm.
She'll look at her party. How enthused do they look, or were they even listening?
Oh, Anscombe, Tier, and Skolna were all listening intently. Lilith and Nore, Lilith is eating. And seems to be just like listening to the music that's going on in the background and like the conversations. She's zoning out. She's not paying attention to anything. Nore is drinking. Like she's eating and drinking, but she's just not paying attention to what's going on.
Is she having a drink in like a fun way or in a coping kind of way?
Nore looks like she's having a good time.
Okay, great. As long as I don't have to worry.
But as you look to your group, Tier says, well, fuck me. All right.
We'll be prepared. We're not going into this blind.
Yeah, we will. We're going to absolutely set up for this one. I mean, the last time we got into a fight we weren't ready for, we all got knocked on our heads, so,
Right.
We're going to take the proper precautions, right? And he like says that looking at Anscombe. And Anscombe like looks at you and then back at Tier and he says, yeah, why are you looking at me? I'm just saying.
Yeah, why are you looking at him?
Look, I didn't mean anything by it. We're doing this
just where your eyes went.
Anscombe says, yeah, we will. It'll be nice to actually have a fight that we're prepared for once, as opposed to all these getting ambushed and random monsters and shambling
Right, doesn't
mounds.
it just feel like a roll of the dice to just come across these creatures sometimes?
Absolutely. It feels like it's just pure stroke of bad luck every time.
Like we're pawns in some larger thing.
Skolna, like, rolls her shoulders and shrugs.
Lorna's just gonna take a drink because the meta is killing her.
Yep. That fourth wall is really crushing down on you. As you take a drink, it is delicious. Whatever you're drinking tastes like... It doesn't have the viscosity of it's like water, but it tastes like honey.
Oh.
It's sweet and delicious and has just a hint of alcohol at the end of it. You never had anything like this.
Well, I don't like it.
It tastes like a cousin of mead, but with none of the gross, warm, like, pickly flavor that mead tends to have.
I like this.
Nolu, like, nods, setting her own mug down. It's tulip mead.
Tulip mead.
We make it with flower nectar instead of honey.
Flower nectar. Well, is this like a grove secret?
It's a druid secret.
See. It's fantastic. I'm glad I could taste it.
Not everybody can. And she, like, takes another drink of it. How do you think Lorna would take to this drink? Would she drink a lot of it, or would she pace herself?
Give me a second. How would she... She wants to put a good face on. She doesn't want to get sloppy.
Okay.
She's wise enough and smart enough to be like, we're trying to convey ourselves reasonably to these people. So she's going to pace herself.
Okay. All right. Roll me a con save.
Which I'm now proficient in. It's Moonstone.
Okay.
Fantastic. 23.
With a 23, the drink is delicious, and you feel a little warmer. You feel a little flush in the cheeks. What sort of emotions is Lorna feeling right now?
I think it's a lot of variations of joy.
They're more intense.
Ooh.
They're heightened. They're a little stronger. For the duration, which in this case is an hour. You have an enhanced sense of courage, and you have advantage on charisma checks.
I'll put that to use.
Okay.
She is, she's engaging anybody who wants to talk to her, especially if they're, one of the younger folk who are just like enthused with her. She'll be telling stories and she'll be using magic to supplement that, like Prestige and Minor Illusion, to just conjure images and effects to like punctuate.
Okay. Yeah, you absolutely start telling a story. And then as you're telling the story, like it looks like the young druid you're talking to, this maybe like 18-year-old half elf, like is looking up at the head of the table and then back at you, like over and over. And Nolu says, "It's all right, lad. She doesn't know."
Oh, am I doing something wrong?
The half elf looks at you and says, "We tell stories after the meal."
I'm so sorry. This is new to me.
And Nolu just like is shaking her head and like waving it away. And she's like, "You're fine. You're new.
Very new.
It's tradition.
Mm-hmm.
You can go on and finish telling. It's fine."
Okay. And then I'll save it for the appropriate time.
Okay. Which, as you all eat your fill at the feast, your entire party gains 15 temporary hit points, and for the next day are immune to the frightened condition.
Whoa.
So make a note of
Good
that.
party.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's basically a hero's feast.
Okay. Got it.
And then Nolu says, after like the feast is finished, after all like the big meals are done, the music slows and settles and changes. Nolu says, "This is the part of the night where we all tell tales. The Rimwood is old, and the land remembers. Some stories are warnings, some are lessons, and some are just stories." She then peers at you and your crew, and she says, "Since you are our guests, you may listen. Or, if you have a tale worth sharing, perhaps you'll add it to the fire tonight." And she smiles and nods, and you notice as she's been speaking, a lot of the bowls and like silverware, like the mugs of drink are left alone, but the actual platters of food are taken away from the table, and then a huge stone bowl is set in the middle of the table, and within it a fire is stoked as she's talking, this great bonfire that begins to roar. And that halfling farmer, the one that first invited you to the table, steps up, and as he puts a piece of parchment into the fire and it immediately burns, he says, "Long ago, a hunter entered the Rimwood, seeking the fabled Silverhorn Stag, a creature said to grant wisdom to those who could catch it. When the hunter finally cornered the beast, the stag laughed and said, 'A sword to my throat, yet you have already lost. Answer me true, and I shall be yours.' And the hunter, greedy but curious, agreed to answer the riddle. The stag asked, but each answer the hunter gave was just slightly wrong. And with each failure, the stag simply smiled and leapt further away into the mist. Sometimes, it's not the answer that matters, but the chase. Some wisdom is only found in the running. The farmer, kind of steps down away from the fire, and there's just gentle, oohs and ahs as people think about the story he just told, and he steps away. On the other side of the table, a dwarven druid, one that looks like it's wearing the pelt of a bear in thick black hair, stands up. Burning a piece of parchment, he says, "Once there was a great oak tree in the heart of the Rimwood, older than any other. A foolish young wizard," and he's looking at you as he says it, "saw its mighty form and declared, 'If I fell this tree, I shall be remembered forever.' He swung with an axe, and he tried to burn it with fire, but the tree stood. And he tried to break it with lightning and crack it from inside with ice, but the tree stood. And finally," and he's looking at you square, "he turned to magic most foul, calling forth rot and ruin. And though the tree began to wither, so too did his own bones, as if they had been bound to its fate. And when that tree finally fell, so did the wizard, reduced to dust upon the wind. What stands for an age does not fall easily, and forcing a change without understanding the cost is the work of fools." As he steps away, there's everyone's silent. Because
Is that shade?
It
Was he throwing
maybe
shade at
could
me?
have been. Grace, the herbal
Oh,
keeper,
hell yeah.
steps up. She also puts a little parchment into the fire, and she smiles at you and your party, she just a bright, cheery smile, and then looks to the rest, and then turns to the children of the village that are out near the base of the table. "In the old days, the Star Wolf ran with the sky, a beast of celestial fire, a guardian of the balance between night and day. But one fateful night, the moon did not rise. The Star Wolf searched and searched, howling into the heavens, calling for the last moon to return. The longer it howled, the dimmer its own light became, burning away in its own desperation. By the time the moon finally returned, the Star Wolf was nothing more than an echo, a ghost in the sky. Some say you can still hear that final howl on moonless nights, waiting for the sky to answer. Some battles cannot be won by claw or fang, and some things are lost, even when we don't understand why. What matters is we accept and live on." And she kind of bows her head, kind of steps away from the fire. Nolu looks at you. "Well, the Rimwood has given you some stories. Have you any in mind to give in return?"
I believe so. What do I need to put in the fire?
The name of something you've lost.
Okay. She'll tear a piece of parchment from her own book, and she'll write, "My father." Because she apparently never had one to begin with. And she will burn it before she stands where the other orators stood.
Roll me a wisdom save.
Okay. It was like, bad choice. That's a 3 for a total of 9.
As you watch the parchment burn away, you feel this welling sensation of acceptance. You see Remus's face emblazon out in your mind powerfully as this individual that maybe he wasn't your father, but he was. And you feel, by writing it down on that parchment and letting it burn, like you're letting go. That's all that happens.
Okay, she quickly like rubs at her eye, but she stands up and she will tell a story about a young woman that learns that she comes from a history of tragedy, of a particular tragedy, and she decides that she will be responsible for it because the people responsible or the person responsible can no longer do so themselves. So she goes and she consults a druid because the ones that she's harmed are druids and she wants to make it right in the way that they will accept and understand. And she's told about the rite of repentance. So she goes and commits this ritual to Luminos. And she describes that whole process of achieving this natural phenomena to prove her repentance and her sorrow for the actions that she didn't necessarily do, but she knew she had to make right, even if it wasn't her fault, because it was still a wrong that needed to be righted. And there was no one else to do it but her. And how she traveled from a long distance and fought many battles, physically and mentally, to make it right.
As you finish the story, there's a long period of quiet. You catch everyone's eyes are on you. Everyone is listening intently. That dwarf that may have been casting shade, you see him like rubbing at his eye. Nolu, at the head of the table, stands. That is a worthy story. Thank you, Lorna.
Thank you for allowing me to be part of this.
You've earned it. You're always welcome here.
Thank you.
As she gestures for you to relax and sit down if you'd like. She then looks at the rest of your party. Do any of the rest of you have a story you'd like to share here at the New Moon's Feast? And there's a pause. Norre looks up. I'll tell you a story from my homeland, but it can't compare to hers. And she says to Lorna, we all
I think
want
you'll
to
tell
hear
it
it.
much better than I did.
Norre smiles. And then she asks, do you have a bit of parchment?
She'll hand her over a scrap of paper.
She writes a name down on the parchment. stands, approaches the bonfire in the middle of the table. As she lets go of it, you realize this is how quick it happened for you. She, like, a breath is, like, forced out of Nori as if she's hit in the chest and she just rubs at her eye. Long ago, in the high peaks of Terracona, before the Blade Maidens had their name, there was a winter unlike any other. The snows fell heavier than ever before, burying entire villages beneath their weight. The rivers froze to their very beds, and even the strongest hunters could not break through the ice. The people prayed to the gods for warmth, for the return of the suns. But the winds howled on, deaf to their cries. She looks into the fire, takes a deep breath. And then, the fire came. Not the fire of the hearth, nor the golden touch of dawn. It was a cruel and hungry thing, a fire that devoured. The demons of the abyss crawled forth from their depths, drawn by the despair of the starving and the weak. They came not with steel, but with promises. Give us your warmth, and we'll give you ours. Some villagers listened, and where they did, the demons kindled their flames. The people grew warm, but not with life. Their breath turned to smoke, their bodies burned from the inside out, and they became walking embers, their souls nothing more than kindling. Those who did not take the offer, they were given no mercy. Fire or ice. That was their only choices. But there was one who stood against them. Her name was Severin, a warrior of no clan, a woman of steel and solitude. She claimed she'd seen the demons before, fought them in the dark, and knew their lies for what they were. As the villages burned, as the winds carried the screams of the dying, she made her choice. She would not kneel. She would not surrender. If the gods would not save her people, then she would do it herself. She looks at you. Her gaze is fierce as she steps away from the bonfire. And everyone seems like, at the ferocity of the story, everyone's like a little bit startled. And as she sits down next to you, you remind me of her.
Oh no. Lorna just wipes her eyes. That was a good story, Nori.
Thanks. And she takes a long drink of the nectar mead.
Lorna does too.
Okay. A few more stories are told over the bonfire, but you cannot help but feel a change in the air. Where there was tension of suspicion and maybe just wariness, it's gone. You feel a feeling that you may not have felt ever truly before. You feel welcomed. Like at a family table. The closest you felt before was likely at Anscombe's table in Siren's Respite. But this, with so many people looking upon you with smiles on their faces, many of them, when they have a moment, mentioning, I really liked your story.
Thank you.
That was beautiful. And when a moment paused, the dwarf even, the one who threw shade, you've taught me a valuable lesson today, one that I should have learned hundreds of years ago as a child. Shouldn't judge anyone, lest I'm willing to be judged myself.
Thank you.
As the feast winds down, many of the older folk have already gone off to their homes to go to bed. Finally, as they dwindle, the moon full and bright, shining above, Nolu stands. Thank you all for joining on this celebration. Our honored guests likely leaving soon, maybe in the next day or two. I ask that all of you treat them with respect, as you would any other family member. And if you have any questions, consider if they're worthwhile before you waste any more time. She says as she's like looking at some of the younger village folk toward the end of the table. And then she claps her hands together, and the feast is over. With that, you are kind of like everyone just seems like relaxed. A lot of people are drunk.
Woo!
A moment here. Yeah. A lot of people are drunk. Everyone is like relaxing and settling in. Everyone's got that Thanksgiving ate too much look on their face. And your party is all around you. Still like a bed of flowers all around you. Just like, well, that was a hell of a thing.
Yeah, it was one of the best nights of my life.
Me too. Norre, like, shoves you on the shoulder.
Ah.
Don't get sappy.
That's kind of like one of my big things, right?
For this hardy badass of an old necromantic wizard, you sure have a soft side to you.
Yeah. She wipes her eyes again. Whew. I think I could turn in.
Also, if you ever want to hear another story of Severin, just let me know. There's a lot.
Okay. She sounds incredible.
She was. All right, so while we're all nice and drunk and tipsy, let's all go back to the house, get everyone settled in before anybody makes any more mistakes. And Tier like stands up from the table.
Tier, okay.
Do you all follow?
Maker of mistakes. Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, Tier leads the way. Clearly he's had a bit to drink, but he is doing his best to appear like the leader of this group, or at least in this decision.
Mm-hmm.
And you all head back to the hermit house. It's late. It's like 11 at night. And as you all get into the hermit house, Anscombe says, okay, if anybody's had as much to drink as me, well, I hope you didn't, because I drank a lot, and I didn't mean to, but that was really good.
It was really good.
Yeah. Are we leaving first thing in the morning, or can we, like, take it a little slow? Because I get the feeling we're going to be a little achy-hurty.
I could probably touch base with Persh, let him know where we are exactly. We have 2 weeks left to get to Shona and still be on time.
That sounds right.
No, a week and a half. She'll like confer with Tier. Does it seem like they'll be able to travel that week and a half to get to Shona and make it on time?
Tier considers...
I have another extra day.
He pulls out his map, and he looks... if we make good time from here, especially if we can talk to getting the druids to help us through the forest like they did before, we
That
don't
would
have
be
to deal with all
amazing.
that. We might be able to get there in 4 days if we
Okay.
move quickly. A
Mhm.
week if we're slowed up a bit. But maybe a little longer if we hit bad weather. So I recommend if we're going to take a little time, we should make that as limited as we can. Just
Right.
in case, something bad happens on the way. And knowing us, something bad will happen on the way.
She'll look at the group. I don't think we should overstay our welcome.
Skull and
We had a
nods.
couple good days here. I think we have things to do, I'm sure. Well, I hope that the druids are amenable to making our path a little easier to get through the Rimwood, but I don't think an extra day is the right decision. I think we should just get a good rest and
I'm
leave by
gonna,
late morning.
I'm gonna miss this place.
It was nice. Maybe we can stop here on the way back
Maybe.
before we get to Augur City.
It just felt like, we carved out something worth it, and then they were cool with us being here. It felt
Mhm.
safe for a day.
It's nice to feel that way. It's been a while.
Could get used to that.
I'll talk to Nolu in the morning about the Rimwood, and then we'll depart.
That's a good idea. She seems to like you.
Hard one.
No kidding. We were there for that.
Well, get some sleep.
Yes, ma'am. And Tyr just, bumbles his way
Plods
up
up.
the stairs. Yeah. Everyone kind of, separates and goes their own way. Anscombe looks at you and says, "We're going to bed?
Mm-hmm.
Right away?"
Maybe not right away.
Mm-hmm. Come on, Riftbreaker. And he just, picks you up by the
That's
hips
me.
over the shoulder. And you have a pleasant night at the Hermit House. As you do, early in the morning, at 6 or 7 in the morning, there's a knock. Everyone is asleep.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true. Skolna's not asleep, so
Skolna might not ever sleep.
Skolna knocks on your and Anscombe's door.
And I wake up.
Yeah, you're woken by that.
Mm-hmm. Lorna will get up. Is Anscombe awake? Or is he...
He's stirring.
Okay. She'll go to the door and peek out. Oh, good morning.
Skolna's looking at you. She looks back at the door and she just says, "Nolu."
Oh, okay. Thank you. She'll make some semblance of order to herself and go.
You see Nolu standing at the door with a couple of young adult druids, maybe 20 to 30. They look, one of them is human, the other one is maybe a halfling, maybe a gnome, you're not sure. But they look serious. They're wearing armor. Nolu looks the same she always does. She looks at you. "I have alarming news."
Great. Lay it on me.
"We became aware, you said, and to your friends, there were people of hostile nature after you."
She pinches the bridge of her nose. Oh no, they didn't do something, did they?
"They didn't find the place, but they're trying. They're south of the Verdant Circle, lost amidst the wandering haze.
No. I almost
Flurry
feel bad for them.
well, Flurry is enjoying herself with them at the moment, but eventually they will find their way out. They'll never make it here. But be aware, you're being followed."
Thank you, I know.
"My sentinels can dispatch them. Seems like she's asking you
she
a question.
I don't relish killing.
Neither do we.
I would prefer them to meet all the trouble on the road, but in such a way to discourage them, not silence them.
Roll an insight check.
Okay. Dirty 20.
Nolu approves of that answer.
Yes!
She liked that.
Lorna's just like, kill them!
Yeah.
Tee smash the brains in. No, she didn't say that. Right.
Nolu nods. Well done. We'll handle it.
I appreciate it. This is just the reality of our situation at the moment.
So I've heard.
You upset the wrong people, and you never forget it. She gestures with her fake hand.
I see that. Enjoy your rest. Come see me before you depart.
Of course, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And she and the two druids that were with her turn, and they head down the porch away from the hermit house.
Lauren just lets out a sigh and plods up back to get another hour of sleep.
Okay. Yeah, you do that. You awaken probably what is supposed to be an hour ends up being like 3. You probably wake up around like 9 in the morning. Your party is like stirring. Everybody's like getting up around now.
Mm-hmm.
None of you are hungover, but one of the interesting side effects of the nectar mead, everything that is supposed to be blue is instead orange.
The sky?
Yeah, everything's orange that should be blue.
Oh. Huh. Okay.
Yeah, that just happens.
This is just reality now. Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't last all day,
like,
but it's
she
there.
wears like deep blue in her robes, and she's just like, it's not my color.
Yeah, Anscombe like looks up and says, "Where did you get that?"
I believe it's a side effect of the drink.
Whoa.
I know.
Okay, that's... And he just shakes his head and drinks some water. You and your group kind of gather up your things and get ready to head out. Everyone rearming and armoring and getting themselves ready. You still have the 15 temporary hit points from the feast.
Mm-hmm.
Tier makes a small breakfast. And if anybody presses him for anything bigger, he says, "I'm not going to keep it down."
Right. It's a light meal. Lorna over breakfast will fill them in about the what was it, 2 assassins?
2
Is that
assassins.
what she was told? That are currently being distracted by the forest. So
Great. It was only a matter of time.
right. But they should be not enjoying their trip through the Rimwood.
Yeah, that was pretty rough, if I remember. That sucked.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk to Nolu right after this, and hopefully we'll have an easier time of it.
There's just kind of nods of assent around the table. You eat, you gather your things, you depart the hermit house, and as you head through the village, it's a different air. You feel welcome. There's an air of acceptance as everyone sees the nightingales. Those who sealed the rift, those who told the stories of who they were at the New Moon's feast. Seems like it was a big deal.
Hmm.
You head to the main tent, which is much more open now. A lot of the slats of the tent are pulled down, and light from Pyrrhus and Tyrrhus is just cascading through the green canopy, giving everything a reflective green light. And Nolu looks up at you all as you enter. The various other druids just kind of about, busy with their things of their life. Nolu looks up to you all and says, "So you're leaving now?"
Well, we're trying to account for the inevitable trouble we're going to be running into. But I was wondering, on our way back, do you mind if we stop in?
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Thank you.
She reaches a hand out to you. Do you take it?
Of course.
She pulls it to pull you into a hug.
Oh. I'll hug her back. This is my grandma.
She literally says, as she pulls you into the hug, I cannot help but see my son in you.
Lorna's just bright-eyed with unshed tears. Maybe a couple actually shed ones.
You've shown yourself to be true. Maybe not to everything we stand for. True to yourself. You've been nothing but honest with us since you've arrived. I see you as my granddaughter.
Oh, no. Okay. Tears falling in earnest now. Thank you for giving me the chance. You didn't have to. You didn't owe me anything.
I owed my son. I look forward to seeing you again.
Hopefully we'll be back soon.
Can you also maybe point out where you found that druidic male?
She will describe exactly where she found the token that spoke to her via the scent of Corinthians. And also, I was thinking about this little carving of a nightingale. It's like a black stone, right?
Yeah.
Does she think that it's something that will, is it a one-time beak?
Roll Arcana.
Okay. Because I thought about giving that to her. So she could hear him. Oh, fantastic. 25.
You know that what you heard was a magic mouth. It is a spell that waits for a specific trigger, and when that trigger occurs, it plays an audio message.
Do you think she understands what the trigger was?
Yeah, you're pretty sure the trigger is when the stone was plucked from the tree.
Does she think that it can be replicated again?
Magic mouth doesn't go away until it's dispelled.
Okay. She will actually then take out this little bird and offer it to Nolu and say, I heard his voice through this, and this is how. Perhaps you can get it to do the same.
She takes the stone from you, looking at the small, carved nightingale. And she smiles again. She says, I will try it.
I hope you can hear him.
I hope so too. It is one of the oldest druidic ordains that we don't dwell on the past. But allow an old lady her humors.
You won't get any objection from me.
Good. You will find your exit from the Rimwood in our grove hospitable.
Thank you.
We will speak to the streets.
Lorna looks super relieved.
And for on your return, she reaches into her long robe and she pulls out a wreath of pine and she hands it to you.
Oh, thank you.
Whilst you wear this, you'll be seen as a friend of the Verdant Circle. The Rimwood will acknowledge you as such.
She takes it gratefully. Thank you.
It's been nice meeting all of you. I hope to see you all again, just as whole, if not wholer, than you are now.
It will be to the best of our ability.
Then safe travels. And she kind of nods. Everyone in your party just kind of gives their thanks for the hospitality and stuff, and you guys are free to proceed.
Lorna goes, but she's very, bittersweet. Like, I don't want to leave. This place is so nice. I felt safe and welcomed here, and now I must go and feel not those things anymore.
Yep. as you unfortunately proceed on out of the verdant circle, away from...
My grandma.
Technically, it is your grandma's grove, I guess. Your grandmother-in-law, your mother-in-law, whatever.
Well, let's not
It's
complicate it.
both.
This is Grandma.
Yeah. Away from your granny's grove. You
Granny's girl.
proceed on, with Tier leading the way northeast to the great desert jewel of Shona. And as we proceed that way, leaving the grove, that is where we will call tonight's session.
Oh no, I had so many emotions. So many.
Thank you for playing with me tonight. I hope you had a good time. It is now
I cried.
we proceed on to the next arc for Lorna. Ooh, here we go. Hope you had a good time. And to those of you who are at home or at work watching, hi Pen, hi Emily, hi class, hi everybody else. We love you all. And I wish you a good night.